Well, what's up, you guys? It is the Chaz Way podcast, and we are on week number 3 of the year 2020, and I'm so excited to be here. I'm actually in sunny but cold Minnesota. I just checked the temperature. It is 6 degrees below zero, and it's midday. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, midweek, as we record this today. Tomorrow's high is -6. And so the low is -27, which is crazy. We're here for a couple more days, but I'm actually joined by my friend John, who's in Colorado. So it's pretty frigid there as well. And we'll get to talking to John in a minute, but I just want to welcome you guys to the podcast and thank you so much for being on, whether you're on the YouTube or the podcast app or Anchor, or wherever you find us. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for just being a supporter, a friend, a follower, a listener. And I just ask you to make sure that you share this. If it inspires you or you get some value out of this, just pass that on to others. It's not for me, it's not for John, it's for the people that are meant to hear this. Whatever it is that you hear that lands with you, pass that on to others, so that we can help inspire or bring value to other people. So today, again, I'm joined by my friend John Hancock. John and I have known each other for probably going on 5 years now. What's crazy is John and I actually ran in similar circles. I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this. Joe and I have many times, but John comes from the music business. I come from the music business in a roundabout way. So we actually were probably in the same circles at the same time, but never knew each other. So I ran around with the Stony camp a lot, Stony LaRue camp, and then you were managing bands as well. So guys, I brought John on today very intentionally, and I'll let you kind of speak on your story, but I will tell you guys that the reason I asked John to be on is because John is a very devoted follower of Jesus. He loves his family, he loves his friends, he loves his wife, he loves his daughter, he loves people. John's a businessman. He is a giver, a server. He's a leader, and he is the kind of person that you want in your corner, but he's also the kind of person that you want to stand by your side when it comes to who are your true friends, who are the people you lock arms with. The truth is, I probably have seen John 2 or 3 times a year in the last 5 or 6 years, 4 or 5 years. But I know that no matter what, we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to grow. Both of us will grow from our conversations. And that's, to me, a sign of true friendship. And so when it came to who are the people I want to have conversations with this year and bring value to you guys, John was certainly one of those people. And so that's why he's here with us today. So John, first of all, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, and then I'd love to get into just kind of maybe some of your roots. What's important to me is I just want to know your story. I want to talk about from maybe even pre-music days into what took you from Texas to Colorado and now being a father, and we can go however you want to go with this. We'll just keep it super organic, but first just maybe introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Sure. What's up, Chaz? Good to see you, man.
You too.
First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on here. I've been looking forward to this ever since you asked me. And,
for sure.
So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my name is John Hancock, and I'm originally from Wichita Falls, Texas. My wife and I are health and transformation coaches. We now live in Colorado, like you said. But to kind of give you some of my story, I was born in Wichita Falls. I was super fortunate to be born into an awesome family. I have one sister. She's 5 years younger. I was homeschooled my entire life. Just because, first of all, through 6th grade, because that's the way my parents wanted to do it. But after that, they gave us the option and said, do you want to go to school? And I played golf, and I enjoyed being able to go out and play golf as soon as I got done with my studies. And I was out in the money game playing in it by noon. So the coach could never talk me into going to school until 3 o'clock every day. And so, but anyway, I was homeschooled until college. In college, I went to University of Oklahoma after doing part-time junior college there in Wichita Falls at a junior college. I decided to go to University of Oklahoma. And so that was really, I guess, as a homeschool kid, my rumspringer. That was my first taste into the real world, where I had no parental guidance, and my grades, I did okay, but I didn't apply myself like I should have. But anyway, loved it up there, joined a fraternity, met a lot of people. then in 2003 is probably one of the biggest shifts in my life. We were having a same volleyball game at one of the fraternity houses. And during that volleyball game, I had 42 missed calls, and it was all from family. So I knew my dad was skiing with some guys up in Aspen. And I knew something was wrong. You just get that feeling whenever you see that, and it's all from, so it took me a minute to get a hold of somebody, but turns out my father had passed away of a massive heart attack while skiing. So that was a massive turning point in my life. And he was my best friend, my mentor. And so I was 22, 23 years old when that happened, I guess. It was March 6th of 2003. So anyway, it's been a long time. Been 19 years almost. And so after that, I went back and helped my mom run the businesses. My father was an entrepreneur and had 4 businesses. So I kind of took some time off college. Luckily, I was able to get my internship through my business. I was studying business anyway. So the university allowed me to use my experience working with my parents' businesses to be my internship. So I didn't have to go do another summer internship.
Wow.
So I was able to utilize that. Anyway, went back and graduated. But at that point, his businesses, and I'd always thought I was going to go get my degree and go back and help my dad. And that kind of all changed, After doing that, I realized this is not what I want my life to be. And so I kind of went back, graduated from school, and then just kind of did a bunch of stuff from that point on.
Yeah. Where did you transition into music? Are you a musician?
So I always played music, but I was really good at piano whenever I was young. But as I got older, I realized why I quit is because I didn't listen to classical music, and I really didn't like playing it, but that's all they would teach you to play. I was like, man, I could have found somebody that could have taught me to play like some Jerry Lee Lewis or, some Billy Joel stuff. I was like, I probably would have kept playing, but anyway, so I can still play a little bit of piano, play a little bit of guitar, but no, that's not when I got into music. I've always been a fan of music though, and always had friends that were in the industry.
Yeah, interesting. And so you get out of college, you do a little bit of everything. What took you into the music scene? Because of course that's like fun stuff to talk about, but how'd you get into the tour manager side of things? Is that really where the start of your music career started, was the tour managing?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even really call it a career. It was
journey, piece of your journey.
Just like it was like a year but so I always had friends that were in the music industry, like I said. So and in Norman, the deli in Norman is a big music area. We were always up there, had friends that played there. But right after college, I was a project manager for a commercial construction company, which had nothing to do with my degree. I was a business guy, but I walked in and this guy didn't want a construction science major. He said, I don't want somebody that thinks they know it all. I want to teach somebody. So I didn't know how to do any takeoff or anything like that. So he showed me how to read plans, do the measurements, calculate how much concrete, all that stuff. And I thought it was going to be a place where I could advance. Great. I learned so much in that time, and I'm so grateful for it. But I just remember sitting there, getting my check on the 1st and the 15th and being like, why? I was always grateful for it, but I was like, it wasn't near what I could make more money bartending. It was like $850 every 2 weeks. And I was just like, why did I go to college for this?
Sure.
One of those type of deals. So I ended up getting laid off in 2008. Because whenever everything kind of went down, they weren't building stuff. So I was the newest project manager hired on. So I was let go. I went on to sell cars, still can't stay in contact with my music friends. And then through all that time, also during college, we played online poker before they shut it down. Mm-hmm. And we traveled around with Tunica and some friends and I did that after college for about 2 years. and it was awesome. Good experience there too. Super stressful. Don't recommend it. Now I just play for fun.
Yeah.
But and I always realized I was taken from people, and not, in my heart was to give, and it was hard to give whenever you're having to take money from people.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
So anyway, I ended up, long story short, staying in contact with those guys, and just kind of ended up hanging out with them, and ended up going on a couple runs with them, and helped out, and never asked for anything, just helped out because I enjoyed doing it. So that kind of turned into a little bit more, and every week, and then ended up spending a whole year with them. It was a great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know it was only a year, but that's cool, because in a year could probably feel like forever as well. So I actually used to want to be a tour manager. Funny story. And I did manage a band, but we weren't like on the road full time or anything. It was a super cool experience. But my buddy, Dusty Kyle, I assume, he managed the Wormy Dog for years, and then he went on to, and then he went on the road with Stoney for 5 years.
Yes. Yeah, Stoney.
Dusty and I were friends way before he went out with Stoney. And I always wanted to be a tour manager. Like, I thought it'd be the coolest thing, because I wanted to be on a tour bus. That was the coolest thing ever. Like, I mean, since I was a kid, I still to this day think tour buses are the coolest thing ever. But then when I spent time on a bus, I was like, I'm so glad I was never a tour. Like, it's not for me. I'm a big guy, and there's not a lot of space, and it's very close quarters, and I like privacy. I'm so glad I never got that gift that I wanted so bad, because I don't think it was for me. It's cool to be around the scene, and it's great to like build such cool friendships, but it's not easy. It's not easy, man.
It's kind of the same way. Like, and after about 30 days, you're like, what did, this isn't as bland. But a lot of times, I mean, we were in a van a lot of times. So we were a 15-passenger van. So I learned how to sleep sitting up. We learned how to, fall asleep anywhere. And I'll never forget the summer, because it was the summer in Texas where it was like 2011. So the summer of 2011, I think we had over 100 days of 100-degree temperatures from like May until like September or something like that.
Wow.
And loading gear in every day. I just remember the band guys would, we called it man tanning. You would get your man tan on while you were on the van, so you could van tan.
Yeah. But what a cool experience, So
Great.
Well, that's cool. So you had that, and then did you move back to Texas at that point? After when did you move back to Texas?
So during that point, what was funny is I was still living in Norman. So I lived in Norman for like 13 years. I stayed there after college. So I was commuting back and forth. It was like a 2-hour drive. So a lot of times we'd go out on Wednesday or Thursday and then come back. We always drove home Saturday night, no matter where we were, just because we always figured it was better to drive home tired, even if you got home at 10 or 11 the next morning and wake up in your own bed, than rather to go to a motel and sleep for a few hours and get crummy sleep, and then have to drive that same drive home and get home way late.
Sure, lose a day.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, cool. That's funny. The deli. We've never talked about the deli. I like the deli. I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I love Mama Sweet, Aaron Holt, Alan Orbaugh, and that's like a Mama Sweet hangout, or was. So.
Hosty Duo, Mike Hosty.
Oh yeah, sure.
The Damn Quails kind of started from there. Turnpike played there. They showed up a lot. They were around back then.
Who was Travis Linville?
Travis played. Yeah, he played once a week, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. A lot of music came out of there. I think it still does. I think they still run a lot of music out of that place.
It's one of the coolest, smallest, coolest places ever.
Yeah, for sure. Man, that's awesome. So when I get to know you, you're in network marketing, which you still are. I think it's very cool. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and let me ask you this: how'd you meet Caitlin? Where did she fall into this whole picture?
Okay, so Caitlin and I are originally from the same hometown.
Okay.
We have 8 years difference, so we really didn't know each other when we were younger. So whenever I'm off to school, when I came back, one of my friends, he was having his 40th birthday. So I get invited to this birthday party at his parents' house, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go. Well, I didn't know that Caitlin was best friends with his wife. They
Oh, cool.
taught school together, and so Caitlin was over getting set up on blind dates. So they're like, well, why don't we just invite this guy? It'll be casual, and you can kind of meet him. And so she was being set up to meet me, but I didn't know it the other way around.
Sure.
So
which is probably better that way. You didn't know.
Yeah. There was no, so anyway, it worked out. We hit it off and talked all night. Kind of stayed in touch for the next couple months on Facebook or whatever. And then I remember when I opened my first nutrition store, she came in a couple weeks later, or like the first week. And then I remember we went out like 2 weeks after I opened for the first date, July 14th. I opened on July 1st, and July 14th was our first date. It was a Sunday.
Wow.
So I'll just never forget that.
Dude, that's so cool. And then you guys have been together since?
We dated for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Then we got married in Kona, Hawaii, on a vacation. And so, yeah, it's been 7 years now?
So awesome, man. That's super cool. I really love seeing the way that you guys respond to each other and treat each other, at least publicly. Obviously, life's not always easy. I realize that. And I also realize we live in a, sometimes people say that we live in like a, what's the word people use when we talk about
highlight reel?
Yeah. Like a highlight reel. And I do believe some of that, but I would say for me, I'm pretty transparent, and I think the people that I run around with are pretty real people. We're not like I don't run around with people that have to have filters all over everything, and stuff like that. So I would venture to say that people in my circle like you probably aren't just posting phony stuff, So I think it's safe to say that what I see is authentic, and I just always enjoy what I see. I think that there's a really cool love that I see between you all, and it's always just very, it's inspiring. And so anyways, that's very cool. So I'm gonna like fast forward a little bit, because one of the things that I've admired, and I don't even know why, and I'd love for you to talk about this, but when I say why, I don't know why you made this shift, but what I saw is like your business is growing. When I came into this, so Herbalife is obviously the business that I say obviously, but Herbalife's the business that you're in. That's where we met, and you were like doing the same thing everybody else, cookie cutter, same thing most people are taught to do in that space. And for some reason, I don't know why, I'd love to know why, but for some reason you made a shift to go from this ordinary average thing that everybody's doing and everybody's taught to do, and you did some sort of adjustment, and you guys decided to for lack of a better way to say it, level up. And what took you to Colorado? What took you to changing your social media? What took you to changing the way you show up, the way you carry yourself, the way you language yourself? Like just your posture changed. What was that? Was there a turn, and was there a reason?
Wow. Well, I appreciate that. I guess, what took us was, what brought us to Colorado was really just, I felt that like the Lord was always telling me there was more. That I had assumed that was really business wise. So we came here with that mindset. We're going to grow this. And it's like, anytime you're in an entrepreneur, there's struggles no matter what. So it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for sure. But I've realized that the more in that is all the relationships, all the people, all of the experiences, all of the things where whenever we were struggling with whether or not to come, make the move, because it was the scariest thing we've ever done.
Sure.
Was I would, what if? I would regret the what if, wondering what would have happened, rather than I was like, we can go try it. If it doesn't work out, we'll figure something else out. Yeah, sure. That was always my mindset.
Yeah.
So just the more. And for me, I didn't know what that was, but since moving up here, I've found the ultra running world and gotten into that, which we can talk about later. But sure. Just knowing that, listening to that voice and not knowing what it was, and it not being what you expected it to be, but it being so much greater, like We've had a family here. I've got a 15-month-old little girl. Just the experiences have been priceless. I'll never forget them.
Yeah. What are you doing with business there?
So that's been crazy because we came here and like, okay, we know nutrition club model. It's what I started with. I actually started out of my car back. I did that for 18 months and then working mobile in and out of nutrition clubs. So then 2015 I opened my first one in Wichita Falls. Then so that was, we're just gonna come here and do that. And we found a great location, found a similar business that they wanted out. So we say, hey, it was all set up. We got in, and 10 days later, COVID, they shut the country down.
Wow.
So it was a super struggle just because we didn't know anybody here, not a soul. Everything was shut down. It was pretty drastic up here. A lot of restrictions. We were able to stay open, but a lot of restrictions.
You did open?
We were able to stay open. Yeah, we were.
You
open.
did actually take over the location.
We were open for 10 days. Yeah, open for 10 days.
So you did take over. So you did actually take over the location, brand it, open it. Okay. I didn't know if that happened like right after you.
Right. We were open for 10 days, and then they said stay shelter in place. Okay. So that's whenever. It was a ghost town. Okay. I remember, not seeing a car all day long. It was crazy. So anyway, long story short, we had, a 1-year option. And so we exercised that after some discussion, and we just decided I'm going back to my old ways, and we're working with people one-on-one, still doing the coaching. We have metabolic resets. We do all types of stuff. So
cool. Yeah. So you actually say that again?
Back to the old days.
Yeah. So you kept the brick and mortar open for 1 year. You did do that, and then you just shut the doors. Awesome. Cool. And are you building any, and we'll keep this part a little bit brief, but I just out of curiosity, are you building team, quote unquote? Are you building business, heartbeat business in your area?
Absolutely. So awesome. Actually been fortunate to work with several personal trainers that are utilizing certain systems that we have to
love that.
We get their people great results. And
cool. Yeah. That's so awesome. All right, dude. Let's shift out of that. And I love that. Thanks for sharing that with me. And thanks for sharing how you ended up there. Where are you in Colorado?
Colorado Springs.
Okay. Where is Grand Junction from you?
So it's far west.
Okay. So where's Colorado Springs from Denver?
We're like an hour south.
Okay.
On I-25.
Okay, cool. So I've been to Denver one time. I've been to Colorado one time. Everybody says I should go. I do want to go more. I flew there actually after our Hawaii trip a couple years ago. I know you were on that trip.
Yep.
And then we had some layover stuff. We had to spend like 12 hours in Denver. And my son has an aunt in Denver. And so she came and picked us up and took us to her little town. I want to say maybe Aurora, somewhere. It was like 20 minutes away. It wasn't far.
Yep.
And we went and spent the day at the water park, which was funny because we had just spent 7 days in Hawaii. So water park was like at a resort. Like we were at a resort in Hawaii. So we went to a resort, and it was just kind of funny. And it was like we hadn't left Hawaii, but it was kind of fun. We got to see her family a little bit. And then so that's the only thing I did. Left the airport, got in her car, drove straight there. And I remember it was July, right? I think June or July, whenever that trip is every year. And I remember leaving the airport and seeing snow on top of the mountains in the midsummer. And I was like, that's really cool. And then whatever town we went to, I thought was super cool. It was like straight out of the movies, straight back to the airport. We flew out that night. But I want to go back for sure. And I hear great things. I hear great things about Grand Junction, Colorado Springs. There's several places, but those specific areas are places I hear great things. And now that I'm kind of in the not motocross, but dirt biking, like scene, and Braxton's really riding like bikes. Everybody says there's tons of off-road trails in Colorado.
I've got a buddy who can take him on all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So perfect segue, actually, because what I've also seen, like obviously I know that your fitness is huge for you and for Caitlin as well. I know that's a big deal. That's a passion of yours. Even if we didn't even talk about your business as a health coach, as a human being, and I definitely will plug your social media before this is over, and I'll drop that for you guys watching and listening in the description when this is over. There will be all John's info there, so you can follow along with his journey. And I certainly encourage you to do that because it's inspiring for sure. So that info will be there, but along with that, you have a passion for health and fitness. But tell me about like the first, like when I first noticed you guys like moved to Colorado, and then it's like, here I am hiking, and it was like, oh, cool, there's rocks. Oh, cool, there's a snake. Oh, there's a deer. Oh, here's my Jeep. And now it's like, oh, here's a 30-hour run. Oh, here, like I'm training with Chad Wright, which some of you don't know, but look him up, right? And then it's like, so now like I've really seen you go super, I believe, I don't want to speak for you, but it looks like really passionate about this ultra marathon stuff. So first of all, what's an ultra marathon and what are you doing with that?
Yeah. So an ultra marathon is any distance over a marathon distance. So anything over 26.2 miles.
Okay.
That's going to be considered an ultra marathon.
Okay.
Most of them start at 50 kilometers, which is about 32 miles.
Okay.
So, I was not a runner at all my entire life. Actually, I was the complete opposite. I made fun of it. I was like, why would anybody run? This is silly. And until, I'd run here and there. You know, I can go run a mile, but I just was like, why would anybody run a marathon? And one of our mutual friends, Joe Cortez, he was doing a half Ironman. And so he was doing it virtually. And I remember, I think up until this point, I'd run maybe a 10K. So it was a little over 6 miles.
Yeah.
And that was my furthest run. So he's telling me about he's doing this half Ironman. He's like, I'm doing it virtually. I'm swimming here and I'm going to ride my bike around town 60 miles. And I was like, and then you're going to run a half marathon? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, I'll do the half marathon with you. Because I was like, he's going to be doing this by himself. That's going to be tough, all that. And I totally forgot about it.
Oh my gosh.
And so a couple of weeks go by and I was talking to him. I was like, hey, when's your half Ironman? He's like, Saturday.
Stop.
It's like Tuesday or Wednesday, like we are right now, And,
yeah.
And I said, man, I said, I'll see you there. And I went home to a kid and I was like, I got to go for a run. And anyway, I went and did that run. I was like, I can do it. I just have to break it down little by little. And I did that with him. So that expanded my mind to basically, after the 6 or 7 mile mark, to know that every step I took was a distance PR for myself. And all I had to do was follow Joe as he led the way. And he was in he was in way more pain than I was. He had already been through, 90% of this race. Yeah. And so that expanded my mind. And then we move up to Colorado and there's the Pikes Peak Ascent, which is it's a half marathon up the mountain. Okay. From Manitou Springs up to the top. And then they put you in a bus and you come back down. So I was like, I'm going to do that. I was like, I've already done a half marathon. All I have to do is get the hill, the climb down. Well, they're like, I was telling somebody that, like, have you qualified? I was like, you have to qualify for it? They're like, yeah, there's one more qualification and it was Super Bowl Sunday. They call it the Super Bowl half. And you have to run a half marathon under 2.5 hours. So I did that, qualified for it, but then once again, COVID happened. So they shut all the races down. So my entry got transferred to the next year. Okay. So during that time, I had found this ultra running world. And I was like, well, it fascinated me how these people were going this distance. Yeah. And I'd written this goal down. I found in a journal. I was like, I want to be an ultra runner before I turn 40. Well, so there was a race here in Colorado Springs that was a 50K here in one of my favorite parks. And it just so happened that even in October, it was October 24th of 2020. So they were going to do this race. And so same silly thing. I've been running here and there, but I find out about the race on Monday and it's on Saturday. So I get like a 4-mile run in and like a 6-mile run in. So I get like 10 total. And my mindset was, I don't know if I can run the whole thing, but I know I can walk that far.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know I'm going to finish it. I was like, I'm going to finish it. And that was just my mindset. And so I was like, this is my last opportunity to be an ultra marathoner before I'm 40 years old.
Yeah.
And so I went out and did it. So then once again, mind expanded.
Sure.
And so just kind of had no real plan, never said I'm going to run this many races, but fast forward and looking back in a 12-month period, I ran 6. I signed up for 6 and completed 6 ultra marathons. So with the greatest distance being I ran 50 miles in 12 hours overnight. It was an overnight race.
That's crazy. That's super awesome. What's next for you in that world?
So in that world right now, I'm going to start training for every March. Well, last March we did the David Goggins 4x4x48. Okay. So we raise money for charity, and we'll start on Friday at noon, and we'll go run 4 miles. And then at 4 o'clock, we'll go run 4 miles, 8 o'clock, and so on. And we'll do 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
48 hours. Okay.
So it'll be 48 miles in 48 hours.
Is that individual, or will you be able to team up with people?
It's an individual thing, but I'm running with a group of guys. So we're all going to camp out. We're all going to camp out together and run it as a group.
Awesome.
It's a lot easier whenever you get up at 4 a.m. to go run with several other people.
Sure. Okay. So every 4 hours, 4 miles for 48 hours. And where when you say it's for charity, is there financial contribution other than the entry fee that goes to that, or just the entry fee goes towards it?
There's no entry fee. It's virtual. So people do it from all over, and you kind of get to select your own charity. So
I see.
I'm going to be running for the Alzheimer's Association and raising money for them this year. And so, yeah. And then after that, then the only other race I have on the calendar this year is called the Mid-State Mile. It's in June. It's in Franklin, Tennessee. And it's actually a last man standing event.
Oh.
And actually Chad Wright has won it the past 2 years. So
you're going to go run it?
I'm going to go see how far I can go.
Yeah. So perfect way to move right into that, because I was going to ask you about Chad Wright and Jesse Itzler. And before I do that, I don't know why, and I'm not going to apologize for this, but as you were talking, I started getting emotional a minute ago. And I don't know why, but I just have to always just be authentic. And when you were talking about the running, and I started thinking about how God connects people so intentionally. He's so much further ahead than we are, and it's so weird to be emotional about these two crazy guys who are absolutely nothing like me. I'm short and chubby. They're tall, skinny, and they run like you. And so what's so funny is that, and I'm not down talking myself, it's just funny because it's two different worlds, but I'm super inspired by them. And believe it or not, it's the inspiration of the running. Yeah, that's cool. And I have massive respect. The inspiration and the reason it got me emotional listening to you is because like I have 3 goals for this podcast. When I had, and I talked about this on week 1. When I created the Chaz Way brand, had to do with me losing weight 4 or 5 years ago. And I today weigh as much as I did when that started. I lost a lot, gained a lot. It's taken me to a lot of amazing places. It was way bigger than the scale, and I'm clear on that. But then the podcast came and the branding came over the last year or so. And then the part that I think was the most important is what are the principles? What does it stand for? What am I? What's the Chaz Way? What is that? And what it is just showing people that they're worthy, showing people they can become way more than average, right? And then also just making sure people know, no matter where they're at in this world, we live in a virtual world, hence this conversation right here. People, my friends, my acquaintances, my fans, my peers are people all over the world that I've met mostly virtually. And my mission is for people to understand that you can be whoever you want to be. It's just a decision. And when I was listening to you talking, I started to think about like moving into conversations about these 2 guys I want to bring up. Those either listening and watching, I want you to like write these names down, because as we talk about them, so Chad Wright, Wright, and Jesse Itzler. Help me spell his last name, John, because I don't know. It's funky.
Itzler.
Itzler.
I believe that's right.
Just like it sounds. But you can look it up. Even if you Google it, it'll pop up, even if you spell it wrong. So these guys, both of which I actually found, I heard of Chad through Jesse. But so just so you guys know, and John will elaborate more on this because he's probably more educated on it. But basically, these guys are, so Jesse Itzler is actually an entrepreneur, been around for years and years, been very successful forever. I don't know Chad's story. I'm pretty sure it's former military. But now they're massively into running, massive, big, huge ultra runners, push themselves, not so much for the physical, but for the mental. And they do, and they give, and they serve lots and lots and lots of people. The people that you guys will hear and visit with over this whole year, I promise you there will not be an interview this year. Nobody that I invite on will be anything less than a servant, leading, loving, caring person, because that is who I choose to be in my circle. And that's who I want to inspire everybody that happens to have their ears or their eyes on this. And so just like our conversation here with John, these kind of people that I listen to or that feed me are the same kind of people. And so it's just crazy that even though their platform may be physical, we'll use the word fitness for lack of better words at this time, it's just crazy what they do and what they give and what they are. So I only make a big deal out of that because, like, it's crazy who Jesse Itzler is and what he stands for. And when I follow him on social media, like I'm blown away. Like I'm blown away by the mind, like the mindset, but like the willpower. I'm not sure the right word I'm looking for, but the strength, the mental strength, probably. So because I know what I know, and again, forgive me, but I know this mostly like through social with you, right? But there was believe it or not, let's reel it back to the big calendar, right? So that's my first thing of connecting the dots, like, oh, he is connected with Jesse also because Jesse has this big calendar. And then the Chad Wright stuff came actually much more recent from my visual with you. But so talk about Jesse, like how did you get connected with him? And because that was is it more business then, or were you even thinking running back then?
Yeah. So the way I found out about Jesse, first of all, was like in getting into running is like I read Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. So I kind of had I Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Okay.
So that was the first book I read or listened to. And then that led me to Living with a SEAL, which was actually a prior book.
Uh-huh.
So, but I found out that Jesse had gotten Goggins to come live with him. So that's that book, which is an unbelievable book, Living with a SEAL. It's one of Jesse's books. So that's how I found out about Jesse. So then I started following him on social media, and then he's doing these runs, and then he creates the Big Ass Calendar Club. But I knew he was running with Chad a little bit and had Chad coach him in some stuff. So when he brought Chad on as a coach along with Mark Brown, I was like, this is awesome. So I joined the Big Ass Calendar Club, and that's where kind of our journey started.
Okay. Awesome. And is that, so was Chad was that all a kind of a collaboration together?
Yeah, I think Jesse brought on Mark Brown and Chad to help coach it with him.
Okay. And is that where, like, because some of the like running stuff, like you mentioned Chad doing the Franklin, Tennessee stuff, is that where you're like, would you go as far as to say that you've been inspired to do some of your running through them?
Absolutely. Okay. And they've taught me so much more than they even know, and inspired me more than they even know. And so, yeah, absolutely. Getting to, and we can get to it later, but going to run Chad's race through the 3 of 7 project, and he had his own race that he put on. That's where I got to meet and run with him.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that, because then I'm going to shift to a couple other things before we wrap up. So what is it called? The 307?
3 of 7 project. 3 of
7. Okay. Tell me about that.
That's Chad's podcast. And that's where, so he put on a race, and it was in Rome, Georgia. It was a 50K. And so I flew out, it was on September 11th. And so I flew out and ran this 50K in the woods of Georgia. And it was a lot of supporters of his podcast. And so it was a lot of people that I had known of through social media, but it was really cool to go to be there. And then, I mean, the racing community is so cool anyway, and it's a great collection of people. But this was probably one of the best collections of people that I've ever been around at one point in my life. Like Chad had said, you could leave $10,000 on the picnic table and not $1 would be gone. That's the kind of quality that when you've got this 150 people, and then it was just the most moving thing after the race. It was more like a family reunion than a race.
Really?
Most races you finish and everybody's like, peace, and they just bounce. Yeah. They had, I think, 150 pounds of smoked pulled pork that they had made for us, all the fixings, homemade potato salad. And then after dinner, one guy had driven down from Michigan to volunteer. He couldn't run, but he was going to volunteer and serve water. And he asked Chad if he would baptize him in the lake. And Chad said, absolutely, brother. And so afterwards we all gathered by the lake. Chad let him out in the lake, baptized him, and then asked if anybody else wanted to. And we witnessed 9 people total get baptized. 2 people accepted Jesus and immediately got baptized. And I mean, there were some people there that were like, I've never been a part of this, seen anything like this at a race. And I was like, no, this is the Holy Spirit moving right here. It was powerful.
Dude, that's so cool. Oh, it's so awesome. Oh, and is that where he's from?
Yes.
So was that at his place, or?
It was in a state park.
Okay.
Close by there. Yeah.
Cool. Did you go with anybody there, or was it just you?
I just went by myself.
Did you know a soul when you got there?
No, just I knew of people. So whenever,
So you show up solo, you're like, I'll just meet people when I get here. Says a lot about you, man, that you didn't let devil can creep in on those situations sometimes. So that's very cool that you just showed up.
He almost did. And
really?
There were points where I didn't want to go, and I was like, something is telling me to go.
Yeah.
Not only, it was more than I knew it was, like in this racing stuff, cool thing I like about it is like, I'm not super fast. I'm not winning these races, but in this, it's like, for me is to finish. And then how it's just me versus my time. How good can I do on that given day? Because there's so many variables. So that's fun. Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a great life lesson. I hope that somebody can take a life lesson out of that, because the reality is exactly that. I mean, that's a story of that should be everyday life. Like you said earlier, when you talked about being in Colorado, more, you use the word more. And I'm going to take that piece as value from this conversation is more. Like what did Colorado bring you? Well, more. That's what it brought you. It brought you friends, family, relationships, networking, opportunity, whatever you went there for, business.
Struggle.
Yeah, take you to a whole different direction. Well, same thing with this racing. Like you are running your own race. And it's way bigger than the race. It's the networking. And when I say networking, I don't just mean like dollar for dollar. When I say networking, I mean relationship building. That's what I use the word networking all the time. What I really mean is relationship building, And so like you were supposed to be there to witness the baptism, and share that here and share it with probably many other people later on down the road. That was supposed to happen, that was bigger than the race. So that's super awesome. So you did get to meet him? Chad?
Yeah.
Cool guy.
I mean, just as genuine in person as he is,
it's awesome.
Social media. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean,
it's awesome.
He's the real deal.
I know very little about him. I only know him through Jesse, and I follow him on social media. Like, I don't see his posts every day. I maybe a couple times a week I see his stuff. But man, what I feel like I see is like straight up warrior. That'd be the word that comes to my mind, is warrior. He just seems like he's a legitimate guy.
Yeah, there's a couple principles that I can share that have really helped me in life too. One is, don't give your pain a voice. So that's a principle that he says, and just meaning there's power in the spoken word. And he's taken a kid at a race that was a last man standing race, and this kid had never really ran more than a 10K. And through the power of the spoken word and not giving in to negative thoughts, which is one of the biggest things that happens in one of those long races, because in a race, in an ultra, the pain's coming, but you don't know when and you don't know how it's going to show up.
Okay.
So that's like, there's always this nervousness because you know something's going to hurt. I mean, when you go that far, I mean, whether it's the bottom of your feet, your knee, your hip, your low back, something is going to hurt.
Okay.
And so not anytime anybody says, how do you feel in that? He said, don't ever say in the moment how you feel, because then that just gives root to it and allows it to just creep in even more. So just staying positive through positive mantras, and you feel outstanding, through scripture, quoting scripture, I can do all things. Those are my favorite things. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yeah. Anytime I feel pain, and even when I feel the pain, giving gratitude for it, that totally shifts how you feel about it. So not giving your pain a voice. And then one of his mantras is don't die in the chair. He's like, in a certain race, he's like, don't quit when it's comfortable and you're sitting down. Yeah. He's like, at least be out there fighting. And then it's okay to quit once you're out there and you're still moving. Yeah. And then constant forward motion is the last thing that came to my mind. And he says that's the
forward motion.
Constant forward motion, no matter what. If you can keep constant forward motion moving, you're always moving towards your goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really glad you shared those with me. That's super cool. Where is Caitlin right by your side is she doing business with you and being a mom, of course? Cool.
Yeah. So awesome. She's a full-time mom, but then yes, we work side by side and work together.
Where are you receiving I see you post a lot of generally your daily devotional. Generally I see that in your stories. What are you reading? Like, is that straight out of the Bible, or are you reading a particular devotional?
Right now, I've had it a long time, and I read it a long time ago, but I went back to Jesus Calling for 2022. Last year was a small little book that I had from Dr. Robert Schuller at their Crystal Cathedral. I don't think you can buy it anywhere. It came from like their bookstore out there. And it was just positive, just daily positive prayers. Okay. And then I would share the Maxwell Daily Reader last year. This year I shifted to Jesus Calling. So I only share it to help keep me accountable too. Hopefully other people get value from it. Yeah. But that's my main intention in doing it, is it keeps me accountable. And then I share the Bible verses that are attached to it. So that way I have to be in my Bible every day.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, by the way. Thanks for sharing this publicly. Where are you guys getting fed other than like your daily devotion and your stuff like that? Have you found a home church there? Are you doing everything virtually? What's feeding you the word?
So we found a church that was really close whenever we first moved here. It was great, but kind of at the same time, we felt like the Lord was saying there's more. And also we kind of realized that we went there to visit and we really didn't visit other churches. We went kind of, hey, it's close, it's convenient, and it was great. But then there was kind of that more, there's more. So we kind of looked around and we kind of landed, we're at Life Church. They just opened a campus here. Caitlin went to school in Stillwater. That's where she graduated. So she used to go to their second campus location. Was there in Stillwater. So we went to check it out here and love it. Got plugged in and are in life groups and it's good.
I love Life Church. I love a lot of churches. I'm one of the things I'm proud of, and I've never heard anybody ever acknowledge this, and that's okay because they don't need to, but one of the best choices I ever made was church hopping, because I needed to be filled, and I'm okay with saying that I need to be filled. That's what we should do. We should be filled, and then we should fill others. And there's been 3 seasons in my Oklahoma life where Life Church is where I needed to be. It was like, it's exactly where I needed to be, and there will be more. Right, that's not where I'm at right now, but it is. Sure. I have had 3 seasons where I was like, Life Church is exactly like God put me there at the right season, you know, and I love, and on top of that, if anybody doesn't know, because again, people that will watch and listen to this are from all over the place. Not everybody knows Craig Gross Show or Life Church, but just a quick plug, you can go online and find, I think it's lifechurch.tv or maybe life.church, I don't know, whatever. But Craig Gross Show is probably my favorite public speaker, one of the top 3 public speakers, and probably the greatest leadership speaker that I know of. His leadership podcasts and teachings are unbelievable. So he's phenomenal. Even if people don't attend the church, they can get so much value through him. So I'm glad you guys are a part of that, and great that you're a part of small groups as well. That's awesome. What are you reading right now?
So right now, beside my bed, I've got The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Whoa, that's so weird. Hang on. Be patient. What was I listening to today? Just today, somebody on their story. Oh, this guy, I'm actually interviewing him, and I can't wait for you to hear him. You know who Bradley is? The real Bradley. Do you follow him? He's out of Vegas.
No, I'll have to.
Like, huge podcast. Huge podcast. Like, he's Ed Milet's buddy. He and Grant Cardone, Ed Milet. And he interviewed a guy named Sean Crane. Sean, and I'm not going to tell you too much about Sean because he's going to be on the podcast next month, because God's huge, and I asked Sean, this guy I heard on this huge podcast. I just reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Anyways, former prison inmate, found Jesus. Now he's a public speaker. Just this morning, I was listening to a story, and it was a video clip of him speaking publicly, talking about the compound effect. And that was the first book I ever read when I got into network marketing, and I learned I learned personal development, which I never knew anything about. And they're like, you got to read, you got to learn. The first book I ever bought was Compound Effect. How crazy. That's the first book I ever read, and I just heard about it today, and I just reheard about it. I was like, I should go back to that. Cool. Darren Hardy, right? Or Darren, right?
Darren Hardy.
Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. It's a very cool book. You guys should all go read that. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, or if you're not even in business, read the book.
It's little small changes over a period of time will compound, whether it's your health, finance, nutrition, whatever it is.
Yeah. How cool. What a cool little full circle deal. And what is so that's awesome. So if there was a book you would recommend, we should probably just go ahead and spin off that same book. That'd be a book for now for somebody to read.
Man, the biggest book, there's a couple really good books that have really, and I want to tell you, right, first of all is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Okay.
That one's unbelievable. And then one of the biggest books, one of my favorite books that personally developed, like for me, was The Four Agreements. Mm-hmm. And just because it's something that I can remind myself daily, and they're so simple, but they're so tough,
It's my all-time favorite book. It's also the hardest book for me. It's hands down my favorite. I've read it many, 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 many times. I still struggle to digest it all. It's actually kind of a funky read, at least in the beginning. It's a little challenging, especially the first time. I was like, what?
Caitlin's reading it right now.
Is really, but it's I learn more from it every time, and I feel like I feel like I understand it better each time. It's challenging because it's like 4 areas of life that are like, so you talk about empowering you to live a better life. If you can just start to really figure out what it really means, it can really help you shift your future. But I love that you brought that one up. That's awesome. If you were to just, and maybe to give something to say a listener or a viewer, just to maybe not knowing where somebody's at today in this piece of their life, to inspire someone, again, blindly, because you don't know where it's falling on their ears, what would maybe a piece of advice be for somebody as they maybe move forward in their life today?
Just to keep moving forward. Don't quit, no matter what it is, whatever your dream is, no matter what the outside noises are, what the voices are, what people tell you. Follow your heart, follow your passion, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. That's when I have a tendency to tie everything back to running now, because it's like I've learned to associate. There's so many lessons that can be applied to life.
Yeah.
And so somebody asked, or this Courtney Dewalter, the asker, said, what's the biggest secret in ultra running? And she's like, all right, write this down. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Life lesson.
And just over and over and over and over.
Sure.
And you're eventually going to reach your goal. So that'd be, and winter doesn't last forever. In the storm that you're in, if you're in a storm, no matter what you're going through, it doesn't last forever. Spring and summer, fall and winter.
Yeah.
And even though we don't know why, it's like one of our friends, Garen Jones, says you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. Yeah. So you may not be able to see why you're going through what you're going through right now, but as enough time passes and you get to step back, I think from it, you'll see many reasons, but God sees the whole picture and he sees the whole. Mm-hmm. So that's the main
thing. And he's way ahead. That's just something that I've blows my mind. I've said it a couple of times in this conversation. He is so far ahead of where we are. And that's why we just got to keep taking the steps. I love that. Like you said, left foot, right foot. That's so true, man. It's been a pleasure visiting with you and catching up and even hearing more that I didn't know. I'm always inspired. I always learn and I always appreciate our time together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Any final words? If there was anything else you want to say or share, is there anything else you want to leave anybody with? I feel like you've given a ton of value.
No matter what, just know that I believe in you, no matter what your dreams and goals are. That's kind of one of my hashtags I always put on some of my posts.
Yeah.
I believe in you no matter what. So
awesome. Well, you guys, I appreciate you, John, so much. I'm going to tag John, or I'll leave his information in the description notes here, and I probably will go ahead and leave the info on a couple of the people that we talked about as well, because I think you'll find some inspiration from them also. So again, John, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you guys being on and listening and watching. And John, thanks for investing your time today with us. And I look forward to visiting with you more soon.
It was an honor. Thank you, Chaz. Have a
blessed. All right, I appreciate you. Talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.